Hi, everybody. It's Rogan. It's the middle of the night. Uh, I passed out at an odd hour sometime after dinner and woke up in the middle of the night. I started listening to recording on one of these sort of robot voice YouTube channels of a Reddit thread about strange things people saw in the woods. And that reminded me of a story I should tell before I forget any of the details. This happened in Tampa, and I always meant to walk back up to the parking lot and make a video about it while I was on site where it happened so I could show you exactly. But by the time I left Tampa, I was so ill, I wasn't doing anything elective. So you're going to get it without the proper scenery. This happened while I was living in the parking lot behind the pizza place. Those of you who know me well will remember that the beginning of this sort of crisis period in my life in Tampa, about 4 years ago, I ended up living in my car in a parking lot behind the pizza place where I worked. Now, this area, there's sort of a sunken woodsy bit. There's like a retention pond sort of with a broken down fence and some trees in it. And I took lots of pretty pictures of this sort of nature. Here's my friend. The nature and scenery around this parking lot. Not a big place I'm talking about. This, I don't know, maybe 100 feet by 100 feet. And the paved part was smaller and sort of L-shaped. The buildings were set L-shaped. Uh, one at right angles to the other, and there's about a 20-foot space between them. There are two or three businesses back there. It's a tire repair shop. There's a boxing gym. Black dude ran it. Well, these are all businesses owned and operated by black guys in the neighborhood. Uh, there was a place that did rentals for parties, bounce huts. Uh, no, the corner shop was sort of like a little garage, and that was a white guy. It's an old man who just come in and butter with stuff. It wasn't even a business. So the other end, in the corner of the L, there's a space about 30 feet between the two buildings, and at the back end of it, there's a fence. It was about 15 feet high. Like, it was not going to be easy for anyone to get over this fence, and nobody could get over it quickly. It was too high. And you could see through the fence that the next lot over was just sort of a gully with thick woods on it. Just very small piece of land between this place and the next paved parking lot, which was behind a Walgreens on the corner. And there were parking spaces that lined all the way up to the fence. At the edge of the fence is a little, it was set so you could edge into this sort of little woodsy gully area I'm talking about. You'd have to walk around some barrels. You'd have to get around the edge of the fence. It, again, would not be quick or easy. The back side of the building where my pizza place was, uh, like I said, there was a business there. There's a car repair place too. I forgot about, but it was kind of small. When they'd have the doors open during the day, you could basically see the entire interior of the building in the back, where my car was and the parking lot where I lived. Nobody was ever there at night except for me and my friend Stephanie, the prostitute, would stop by every now and then with drugs. One or two other homeless people I knew would come by, get high every now and then. So, and there was a door between those two locked up businesses that was never opened. It looked like it was just painted shut. And it wasn't quite next. It was one of the doors that was next to was glass, so you could see into the closed repair place through the glass door. And there was no other door anywhere nearby, about 20 feet away. And in front of these doors, there's several parking spaces, that were at right angles to the wall. Opposite that wall, the other wall, about 20 feet away, is big heaps of tires, big tires. I explain all this because the story doesn't make sense unless you know how well I knew the area, like the specific micro area, this like spot of 20 square feet, now 20 by 20, and yeah, and how clear and how, no, not how clear a mental picture, but how completely I knew the environs. There were walls, but behind the walls, I knew what was there. There's the tire place on the right. There's a car repair place on the left. Nobody's there at night. There are cars parked in some of these spaces. Usually the car repair place, so stuff they were doing. So when I lived in the parking lot, I fed, took care of these feral cats, as everyone who knows me knows. I brought some of them with me to the house I moved into when I moved out of the parking lot. And at one point, living in the parking lot, there was a litter of 4 kittens born somewhere. So the mom and the 4 kittens lived in that parking lot. And they were really small at this point. And they were weaned, but later one of them was killed by a car. I brought Lion and Spooky over to my house. There's a 4th kitten. Oh yeah, the 4th kitten just ended up living there, I think. Anyway, at this point, I think there were only 3 left. The poor kitten was already killed. So I woke up in the middle of the night. I put out cat treats or cat food or canned cat food or something in the middle of this little area for the kittens. And there are 3 kittens crowded around eating treats or food or whatever it was on the pavement behind where cars parked at right angles to the back wall. As I said, no one's ever around at night. It's probably 2 or 3 in the morning. I had passed out earlier, probably from taking drugs after work. I was kind of into heroin during this stretch. So I woke up and I put out something for the cats to eat. And I walked back over to my cars, parked back in the opposite corner. And a sedan comes in, maroon colored, nondescript car. I don't know, it could have been a Ford Escort, something like that. Came in kind of fast. Took a sort of a left around the corner of the building. Drove right over the spot where the kittens were eating to pull fast into a parking lot on the left at right angles to the back wall of the pizza building. So first, it just passes right over the 3 kittens. They're small, but it was odd because the kittens just did not react to the car pulling in and driving right over them. And they were big enough to scatter in terror should a car drive by. Like I said, they had a sibling that had already been killed by a car. So they knew. They stayed away from the cars, but they just kept eating like no car had happened. So I walked over to see who it was and to tell them, like, watch the kittens next time. And I walked up to the kittens. Now, the kittens are huddled over the food on the pavement about a little less than 10 feet from the back of this car. The back bumper is at right angles. The parking space is at right angles to the building. The back bumper is at like right angles to the lines of the parking spaces. So I'm less than 10 feet from the car. It's entirely in my peripheral vision. And behind the car is the back wall of the pizza place, which is just outside my peripheral vision. So I walk over and I'm looking at the kittens and thinking, it's weird that they didn't scatter. And I look up and to my left so that I can talk to whoever is in the car. Woman gets out and get a good look at her. Black woman, maybe middle-aged, somewhere between 25 and 55. Dressed up a little bit like maybe a teacher or a secretary or going to a church that's not particularly formal. Seemed kind of overweight. Maybe kind of short, but I didn't even get that much of a look at her. And she gets out of the driver's seat of the car and bustles quickly towards the front left corner of the car on the driver's side. That door that never opens in that wall is about 6-7 feet to the right. Like it's just sort of just in front of the right front corner of the car. And there are no doors anywhere nearby other than that one. It's a big metal door that looks like it's painted shut, and I've never seen it open. It's just not a functional door, as far as I know. And the business inside, like I said, just goes all the way around this door. There's doors on either side that are not nearby. One of them's glass, so you can see through it. If somebody were to walk through that door quickly, you would see them inside. So she bustles quickly towards the front left corner of her car. As I lean down to look at the kittens, like I sort of crouch, and I don't know why I was crouching. I was just making sure the kittens were okay. Maybe I was trying to figure out why they didn't scatter when the car drove over them. So she's in my peripheral vision the whole time, or close. And I only looked away for 2-3 seconds. And then I look back up to my left, and she's gone. Gone. No sound, no door opened. I didn't look away long enough for that door to open and shut. Even if it were possible to open it, which as far as I ever knew, working and living there a total of like 7 or 8 years, that door didn't open, ever. The closest place that was around the corner of the building on either side was at least 15-20 feet away. And so it was very distantly possible that somebody moving fucking fast could have got to the corner of the building and around it. On the right, but like I said, there's barrels there you'd have to get around, and the corner of the fence, and if somebody was going to go through that door or around that corner, they'd make noise. And it was silent, just dead silent. And it was really close to just seeing somebody vanish. Like, I thought at the time, if it had been a half a second faster, I'd have been dead sure I'd seen something supernatural happen. It was just that quick. And like I said, she was maybe 5 feet outside my peripheral vision on the left the whole time when I turned my head away. I remember walking over and putting my hand on the car, like on the hood of the car, where it was warm from the engine running, to reassure myself that it was a real car. I mean, it seems like a strange thing to say. Like, I am not inclined to think supernatural things are happening, like, for no reason. Like, I do have a couple other stories like this, but not many. And so the conclusion I came to was that she must have somehow gotten through that door, or maybe somehow gotten to the corner of the building and slipped into that gully. The whole rest of the time I was living in that apartment building, that parking lot, I was sure that gully must have some like tent or shack in it somewhere that I couldn't see, and that there were homeless people living very carefully and quietly and silently over in that gully, or maybe up on the roof, or maybe, just maybe, that door does open and you could get through it into somewhere, somehow, that I didn't see, like down some stairs or up some stairs. But like, I got good looks at all of this. Like, it would have had to be somewhere secret and underground in a super strange way for me to not know. I lived in that parking lot for, I think, about 9 months. 6 months, anyway. I worked at the pizza place around the corner and used that parking lot to get in and out of that pizza place while I was working and delivering for several years before that. I knew all the guys who ran these businesses. I did get the impression on other occasions that a couple of the black dudes back there and their friends were up to some shady business. Uh, I mean, I was in their parking lot. Of course, I would get that impression. Like, I can tell you details, but there's nothing particularly relevant to this story. Once I got the impression some guys were arguing about not wanting to reveal something by doing something in front of me. And I pointedly looked away into my back seat in the car, and then they weren't there a few minutes later. But I could have just gotten in the car and left. Like, it wasn't like this business I'm telling the story about. Man, I was less than 10 feet from that car, and she was still on the driver's side and moving towards the front of it when I looked down. Just looked down and looked up, just like that. To this day, well, like I said, I wanted to make a video in the space, in the spot, so I could show you exactly how close these things were, but they were close. Just, I mean, you got to take my word for it. But, like I said, I was doing hard drugs at this time, but not, like I was also maintaining 50, a little bit more hours a week at the pizza place. Like, I wasn't strung out and fucked up and hallucinating. Like, I was level-headed for a guy taking hard drugs. And living in his car. Like, I was working, staying showered. There's no need to explain in any case. Like, it was a real home for me for a while, that parking lot. And I still don't have any idea what happened there. In my life, I've had 2 or 3 other occasions to think something that I witnessed, something that happened to me, smacked of the supernatural or just blatantly screamed supernatural. Is a close encounter with lights and noises in the woods I tell the story about. But eventually I felt, to my satisfaction, I'd figured out what happened there, and it was guys. It was people. And a couple other times I've had weird things with, like, poltergeists, like psychic moments. Nothing. Like, I don't think that stuff is supernatural. Like, just weird. This, I have no idea. Never saw the lady again on any other occasion. And after a little while, I just went back to sleep in my car. And when I woke up at 9 or 10 in the morning, that car was gone. Her car was gone. And yeah, that's the whole story. If anybody has any idea what was going on there, I would love to hear your suggestions, but I can't imagine what your idea would be, because it's just baffling to me.